that. It's ready to go. Okay, so it is 6:33. We'll call the meeting to order. We have everybody from council here, all our admin is here. And with that, we will begin with the adoption of the agenda. Councillor Dean.
I'd move for adoption, but I'd like to amend it and just add under new business strat plan update.
Strat plan update.
And then if there's nothing else, I'll move as amended. I'm thinking 8.5.
Do you have information on the strat plan, Alicia, that you can update us on, or?
It's minimal, but I do have some information,
Okay.
yes.
All right. Anything from administration?
Nothing.
Okay. Motion to adopt or to approve the amended agenda?
Yeah, I motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. Okay, that takes us to minutes. Where are we here? Minutes. There we go. Minutes for the March 2nd. Any errors or omissions there? Councillor Prestige.
Make a motion that council adopts the minutes of the March 2nd, 2022 regular council meeting as presented.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. All right, we have public hearing at 7. We're going to pass for now because it's not 7 o'clock. 5.1, bylaw 582.22.
I'll have to go off in public hearing.
That one's okay. It's I think it's the item 8.3 that has to be after public hearings. Is that right, Joe?
That's correct, yeah.
Hey, okay. Okay, Joan, take us through this one.
Good evening, Council. So we have in front of us a land use amendment application to rezone a parcel in the hamlet of Blue Ridge, part of Southeast 265910. It's roughly 17 acres in size, from Reserve District to Direct Control District, particularly DC1 that's attached to the bylaw, proposed bylaw. So I've included the documentation for you. Also included with the application is a report from the landowner's planner that has kind of outlined a history of what has occurred on the parcel, the adoption of the Northwest Blue Ridge Outline Plan by Woodlands County Council, and then subsequently some development applications, just bringing the trying to bring the parcel up to compliance as far as the use that's been out there for several years, since roughly 2002 and just a little bit prior to that. So as noted, the parcel is currently zoned Reserve District. An approved outline plan has been approved by council already. The amendment to the Direct Control District gives council essentially control over the existing use and any future development that occurs on it. So the Direct Control District, or the applicant is wishing to remain utilizing his parcel as a trucking business. He has log trucks, as well as he's also got a mechanical shop there in which he does repairs to various large equipment, and he also owns some graders and some cats and things like that. So just wanting to retain that use while he remains there, as well as I think utilizing it for potential future sale of the parcel as well. So under direct control, I've indicated some specific uses in alignment with that, and then in the future it also refers that the original outline plan that council adopted, in the event anyone ever chooses to go that far and develop it into hamlet residential lots, that can proceed through, either through the direct control districting or through another rezoning application to take it to the hamlet sized lots. So I've just got in front of you this evening, that particular bylaw and attachment to it, and just looking for first reading of that bylaw and then establishment of a public hearing so that the neighboring landowners have opportunity to comment on the change of the districting. And looking for April 13th, 2022 at 9:45 a.m. here for the public hearing process.
Okay, so just as a matter of procedure, within the MGA, if we're going to make any changes like this, we have to kind of contemplate them, and that's what the first reading is. If we don't give this first reading, then we can't have the public hearing, and so there's no changes on this being made today. This is a first reading of the bylaw, then we see public input, see how everything looks, and take it from there so that we can move to the next information gathering stage. I'm gonna just ask Joan a quick question. How many direct control areas do we have in the county?
We have got the Briar Patch in Blue Ridge that is under direct control, and then our natural resource extraction, which is our gravel pit areas, are also direct control. So any developments related to direct control all comes through council for approvals, and a public hearing process along with it as well.
Okay. Any questions? Go ahead.
Just one,
Councilor
Mr. Chair, to Joan. So if this 17-acre parcel is ultimately zoned direct control, and then this gentleman wanted to sell, council then would have the opportunity to evaluate and return it to reserve or leave it as direct control. What's the process there?
Through the brief to Councillor Dean, what could occur is once you go through the development permits specifically, you can have those either end upon his sale of the parcel, or you can have them like normally occurs is that those permits run with the land. So if the applicant decided to sell his parcel, he could potentially sell it with the uses that he's currently got there. But like I say, he's got to make application. So once this direct control district is in place, he still needs in turn to do the development permits to bring them in line because the Municipal Planning Commission, when they approved it, they gave him until October of this year to either comply, which was to take it down to 2 trucks, which would fit within the Northwest Outline Plan of it being potentially a CR districting, or he needed to come up with another plan, either amending the area structure or the outline plan, or looking at some other avenue. And in my conversations with the planner that he had hired and myself, we felt the direct control district was probably the easiest route to go, and then council still has control too about what occurs on the parcel. But at time of development, council could place a condition on there that upon sale, that those permits are no longer valid, and then whoever purchased it would have to come forward again, so you guys would have opportunity then.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Anyone wish to motion first reading? Councilor Kush?
Make the motion the council gives first reading to bylaw 582-22, amending land use bylaw 490-17 for plan 162-1681, block 1, lot 1, part southeast 265910 west of the 5th meridian, 16.98 acres from R Reserve District to Direct Control District DC1.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions on the motion? You're good with that motion? Did we miss anything? We got all the numbers right? Okay. Any questions on the motion? Comments? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, then we have a second part arising because of that passing. Councillor Kluken.
Yeah, I'll move that council direct administration to schedule a public hearing for land use amendment application 2022 land use A01 bylaw 58-22 for April 13th, 2022 at 9:45 a.m. at Woodlands County White Court Municipal Office, downstairs council chambers.
Okay, I just heard a misread on the bylaw number, so can you just restate the bylaw that you meant you're wanting the open house on the public hearing on?
Bylaw 582/22.
Yes, perfect. Okay, any discussion on that motion? All in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. That brings us to what? There already. County dust control, 7.1.
Your worship, members of council, the dust control policy 3203 amendment was presented to the governance and policies committee, which recommended approval by council. The changes in the policy are that in the past, dust control fees were $350 for 200 meters. The new policy reads that the rates will be reviewed and approved by council annually. The new rate for 2022 is 100 meters for $425 or 200 meters for $750. And any additional length would be at $4.25 per meter. The area of county funded dust control is the 1.6 kilometers from West Mountain Road to Range Road 123A, which is access to the tube put in. And the recommendation is that council approve the dust control policy 3203 as amended.
Okay. Councillor Wilhelm.
Through the chair to Andre. Andre, just, I guess that brings up a question for me. Look on item 13, locations for county funded applications. Will there be no other locations in the county where we will be doing dust control then? Is there no other planned locations?
Through the chair to Councilor Wilhelm, as far as dust control itself, that is the only location. We are doing some dust controls, we are doing some calcium stabilization on Range Road 120, I believe it is. But this is the only dust control location.
Councillor Kush.
Just through the chair to Andre there. Last year we looked at basically like pricing it for cost recovery. Is this kind of along the same comparison?
Through the chair to Councilor Kush, that's correct. Last year's prices include the application of gravel, but now there will be no gravel added except if we are re-graveling that road during the re-gravel program, then we'd re-gravel it and then apply dust control.
I'm gonna ask one question for myself. Can you tell me the difference between the dust control process and the the stabilization process?
Dust control is sprayed right on top, roughly 1.5 liters per square meter. The calcium stabilization, we apply at a heavier rate and we work it in a little bit and we try to compact it with rollers.
So it's a bit more intensive.
It's more than, dust control just keeps the dust down. The calcium stabilization helps keep the road from getting beat up as bad.
I just want to make sure there isn't a confusion between the two is also. Thank you. Councillor Prestige.
I'll make a motion that council approve the dust control policy 3203 as amended.
Okay. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. 7.2, schedule of fees. We have a schedule of fees by law.
Your worship, members of council, as the schedule of fees bylaw 583-22 needs to be amended to reflect the dust control fees that were just approved, which would be $425 for 100 lineal meters of dust control application, $750 for 200 lineal meters of dust control application, and $4.25 for each additional lineal meter. Recommendation is that council gives first reading of bylaw 583-22 amendment, schedule of fees bylaw. The council gives second reading to bylaw 583/22. That council proceeds to third and final reading of bylaw 583/22. That council gives third reading of bylaw 583/22, schedule of fees bylaw.
Counselor Kush.
This is just a continuation of the conversation we just had, really, and yeah, I'd rather have this program than like we had last year where we basically didn't have one at all. So I want to make the motion the council gives first reading of bylaw 583/22 amendment schedule of fees bylaw.
Okay, first motion for first reading is on the floor. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Counselor Williams.
I'll make a motion that council gives second reading of bylaw 583/22, schedule of fees bylaw.
Very good. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Counselor Kush.
I'll move that council proceeds to third and final reading of 58322 schedule of fees bylaw.
Thank you. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, and I see no opposed, so that means this one was unanimous, and it must be unanimous to continue the third reading, so, Counselor Prestige.
Make a motion that council give third reading of 583/22, schedule of fees bylaw.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Okay, that brings us to cancellation of the March 30th, 2022 meeting. Waiting for my page to load here. That conflicts with our strat plan for March 30th, 31st, and April 1st.
Your worship and members of council, the reason why this is before you today is in reviewing the minutes from the February 2nd meeting. The motion was not passed to cancel the meeting. The discussion was that it would likely have to be canceled. So we have no reason to believe the strategic planning session is not going ahead, so this is before you tonight for a motion.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion on this? Councilor Dean?
I'd move that council cancel the March 30th, 2022 regular council meeting.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? I see nothing, so all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. That brings us to new business. Where are we? 7:51. I want to do we have the people for our public hearing? Wow, we're 10 minutes early. Let's try the Service Tracker Quarterly Report, item 8.1 under new business.
Your worship, members of council, as discussed earlier in the meetings, council requested that the quarterly report for service tracker data be brought forward. It's been compiled by communications, and there was a report following. We do have representation here from communications. If anyone has any questions of that department, they can be fielded through myself.
Okay, I think we're gonna get some. Councillor Wilhelm.
Not necessarily a question, just comments. I appreciate the additional work that was put into this. I like the breakdown. It gives us a chance to, it gives us a little bit more input as councillors to see exactly where those requests are coming from when they're not coming through us or not being directed by us to the website. Would it be possible as well, just what might help the system and make it look even better is we don't have to be specific on anything, but how many of these request submittals have been positively concluded or whatever, like any ones that are concluded or have are considered closed by the county? Because it gives us a good kind of stat to say how many of these requests are being closed and how quickly they're being closed. Because I believe the policy states a specific amount of days for either closure or some kind of solution to happen within a specific timeline. So if we could include that, which ones are closed and which ones aren't, I think that would also be a little good piece of data we could share with the residents.
Thank you for those comments. We will include those in the next report, providing that data can be pulled out, but I'm sure that it can.
Okay. Any other questions on the service tracker? Councilor Prestige?
I'll make a motion that council accept the service tracker report as information.
Okay, thanks very much. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. I'm betting this next one's gonna take us longer.
Your worship, if I may, I could provide council with the update on the strategic plan.
Yeah.
Sure, let's do that.
Sorry.
We'll go at 8.5 with the
So as amended, as requested by Councillor Dean, I have been in contact with the consultants that are facilitating the strategic planning session. They have not released the agenda to myself. Their instructions were that that would be discussed with CAO Gordon Frank upon his return on Monday. So I'm certain that things will be forthcoming shortly after that. There has been significant headway made in the planning for the logistics, so we have found a venue very close to here, and everything will be sourced locally for the event. We haven't signed the paperwork yet, so again, we're waiting until Mr. Frank's return on the 21st before we sign the contract with them for the venue, so I'm hesitant to give all the details.
Sure.
Councilor Dean.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and thanks for that update, Alicia. What I was hoping was that we were going to have an itinerary, and I understand that we don't, and I understand why. I would like to request that an itinerary be sent out to council prior to the activity, and because I'm requesting that, I'll make that into a motion then. So we're set, I don't know what the day is it the 28th, is that the first day of the
30th.
30th? Okay, so like, just if we could have a few days heads up just to know what it is, what we're doing. So I'll move that an itinerary with a schedule of events be sent to council, say by the Friday prior. I'll find the date for you.
25th.
The what's right?
25th is the Friday.
By March 25th.
Through the chair to all of council, I will make that request of CAO Frank when he returns.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried. All right, now, Councilor, well, no.
Do we have to accept from administration information as information, or is that all we need?
We can accept the report for your information, yeah. Go ahead.
I'll motion that we accept the report given by the CAO, acting CAO as information.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Can we do 8.4?
Okay. 4. Not actually supposed to jump around in an agenda this much.
But we're nimble, John.
Right, yeah, we've been known for nimble. Okay, well, we can read let's do the request for letter of support, and if we get too lengthy, we'll move on.
Before we start on, just to declare pecuniary interest, given that outside work affiliates with a couple of the people on this list, I'm just gonna stay out of this conversation.
Okay.
Yep.
think you
So
can,
you're-
you can go into the gallery, correct?
You're declaring a pecuniary interest,
I
and it's because of your relationship
Because
with
of my employment outside of this with,
Okay,
And I believe it's outside of the rules, so there can be no
Eyes.
coercion or,
You can't coerce us.
I don't know the word.
Voices.
right. Okay,
And I'm sorry, my agenda has closed. So this item came in from the companies listed. They're looking for a letter of support for a grant application for timber permits in the, I think it was the W01 and W02 areas. The reason for the urgency and the late addition to the agenda is they requested that they have the letter, if we're providing one, back by the 7th of April, so they can have their package in by the 14th of April, which is the closing date for the grant application.
okay. Any questions to admit on this one? Councilor Williams?
Were these areas, I just can't remember, were these the same areas that we provided the letter of support to? It was a First Nations group earlier.
Alexander.
Yeah, is it the same areas? I'm just curious, just so we're, of which areas we're actually talking about.
Through the chair to Councilor Williams, I'm sorry, I do not know if it is in conflict with.
Councilor Dean?
And to that point, I don't think that there was any conflict because we said at the time that if anybody else came, that we would issue a letter of support. So I hear your question.
Just more curious
wondering,
than
yeah.
anything, yeah.
Councilor Prestich?
I'll make a motion to provide Canfor, Miller Western, the Alexis, Dakota Sioux Nation, and Backwoods Energy a letter of support to be included with the application to the government of Alberta.
Thank you. Any discussion on that, Councilor?
I do have a quick point that, or something I want clarification on. And this can be for all of council or administration as well. All these companies are in good standing with the county. We don't have any conflicts with anything. They've been very strong members of our community, I'm assuming.
Through the chair to Councilor Wilhelm, yes, there's no issues in that regard.
I assume so, but I wanted to ask. Okay.
I know where you're going with that. Yep. Anything else? Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Okay, somebody want to grab Councilor Cush, and it is 7 o'clock on the nose, so we can begin our public hearing. All right, now, Joan, you said there was no electronic component here that we needed to wait for or anything?
no,
Okay. So, we have hit, oh my goodness, my computer wants to restart. Hang on. No, don't do that. Okay. You know, my notebook never wants to restart, the one I write in. Okay, so it's 7:01, and I'll declare the public hearing for the proposed Blue Ridge Country Estates outline plan for Point Northeast 23-59-10 west of the 5th Meridian for 132.1 plus or minus acres. Go ahead, Joan, you're gonna give us the background on this.
you betcha. Thank you, Reeve and council. So what we've received is essentially the parcel is located in the hamlet of Blue Ridge, immediately behind the Blue Ridge Hall, recently logged. And the developer has reached out to look at perhaps doing some development on it, as well as following our land use bylaw and the requirement that it is currently zoned reserve district. And before any development or any subdivision can occur, they are required to have council adopt a outline plan. So the applicant and his
Planner?
surveyor, I'll call him.
Okay.
Sorry. Do you have planning in there too? Sorry, this is Nate. He has crafted up the document for us, essentially showing a phased approach of how the parcel can be developed in the future to meet our municipal development plan. So initially starting a phase of country residential, so some larger lots, encompassing that into then what could eventually be smaller hamlet residential lots with servicing. So the first phase that the developer's looking to do, like I say, larger lots, country residential development with potential of holding tanks and cisterns. We do have policy around as well, but that's at the next level of subdivision in which, you know, he may consider doing conventional septic and water wells. So just attached is indicated the document, and as well as we've referred this out to every landowner in the hamlet of Blue Ridge. Received 2 phone calls, very positive towards this. I know one gentleman, he said, this is probably the best thing you've done for the hamlet, so that was exciting to hear. Another gentleman that called me, just wanting to be assured that this wasn't going to impact his taxation in particular. He's embedded in the hamlet itself, and again, explained to him the difference between the assessments as far as a large country residential parcel versus, you know, your hamlet residential uses. And then we had one letter from a gentleman that has got a parcel embedded in the hamlet as well, had looked at some future development, but just hasn't gotten there yet. And again, very, very excited to see someone else that's looking to, you know, get the hamlet rolling for us. So, yeah, and that was about it. And infrastructure and Alberta Transportation did provide comment as well. Those were the agencies that we referred it to. And just standard comments with respect to Alberta Transportation and the requirement of probably caveat and with respect to development along their 658 highway.
Okay, very good. And just so that everybody is aware, our public hearing bylaws changed somewhat from the process in the past, in that council wasn't allowed to ask questions actually of the developer, and that's been amended out. So council is fully able to ask any questions. The purpose of this type of hearing is to actually not make a decision today, but to gather clear and concise information so that we can put it all out there in the public. The questions can be asked, we can have a discussion. It of course has to be civil, and you know, the questions have to be specific to the developments. But that's the amendment that was proposed in the bylaw, and it's sitting here next to me. So with that, I'm going to ask if council has any questions relating to the proposed outline plan. Councilor Prestige.
I don't have a question. I've talked to quite a few residents in and around the hamlet, and I have not heard a negative comment about doing this. They're all really in favor of it.
Councilor Wilhelm.
I'm gonna support that statement. I have some friends living in Blue Ridge who are very excited about the potentiality of this, so I don't see any negatives to it so far.
Okay. Councilor Coolton.
I just think that it's really good that this is happening, because this is part of this movement out more to rural, and the more places that we have available, the more people we can encourage to come into our community. And if someone's willing to do this, I think we should really help that process along.
Okay. Councilor Dean.
I have a question of the developer. So that's Nate? Yeah, sure.
Come on up, Nate.
Yeah, you can.
So, just in reading through the plan, I was looking at the provision of water and the septic. And so I note that right now, the plan calls for cisterns, so water would have to be trucked in.
Yeah.
And then a pump out tank, so a septic tank that would fill up and have to be. So those could be costly, and I'm not in the business of developing, but I'm just curious as to why you chose cisterns and pump out tanks rather than wells and fields.
Well, part of that is cost the other way. When you start digging wells and a high number of wells in an area, then we get into water testing to see how much the aquifer can handle. So that is a part of it, of course. And then, of course, dealing with effluent afterwards. If the areas aren't big enough to, like the areas of the lots aren't big enough to handle a pump out system, let's say, then you're getting into mounds or fields or something like that. And if the land isn't suitable for that, you're going back to a holding tank anyway. Or having to connect to the municipal infrastructure that is nearby. But of course, there's an expense there, and the developer in this case isn't keen on putting up that front end expense to start with. And you know, if we look into the future and at the smaller lots, we start having to deal with abandoning wells or dealing with these other sewer things, then you know, it's easier to pull a tank or than to deal with those sorts of things.
And I guess the follow-up question to that just is, so if I'm a prospective buyer and love the location, but I'm not crazy about having to truck water in, and you know, there's issues with that, right? Reliability and all that sort of thing. Are there any options for a lot purchaser to have a well and have some kind of a mound or a septic field?
If I may, through the reef to Councillor Dean, generally what we do is if the developer's looking at cisterns and holding tanks, is we do put a caveat on title. And within that caveat, we do indicate that if anybody wishes to do a well or conventional septic system, then they are required to do the engineering behind it.
So the lot owner would be required to do the engineering behind it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna ask one question to the developer myself, and this is mostly because we just came back from RMA, but what is the access to broadband in the area? Do you have any plan? I'm the only reason I'm asking this is because if people get access to broadband and they have to deal, like if they have wild high speed and they have to truck water in, I swear the high speed is the tipping point these days, it seems like. So yeah.
I have no idea, to be perfectly honest, what the broadband is like.
Okay. Councilor Prestige.
I spoke to the developer about doing the one dig system where they put in the piping in, and he really didn't have an issue with it.
Okay.
One dig?
Well,
You do your gas, power, and you just run the conduit in the ground for
Fiber.
fiber.
Oh, for high speed,
So
for fiber.
if you buy a lot, all you gotta do is go out to the road and you can hook onto fiber when it's available.
Right. Okay.
okay. Any other questions of council? All right, I'm gonna ask then if the applicant or the representative wants to provide any further comments or new or additional information.
The document, it speaks for itself as far as I'm concerned. Thank you.
Okay, and Joan, did we have any, you mentioned a couple of written submissions on it, but did we have anyone here wishing to speak, and did we have any written submissions?
We've had no further written submissions other than what's in your package, and yeah, there's no one else in attendance for this evening's public hearing.
Okay, so my final question, you feel that this has been a fair hearing?
I do,
Been heard?
and I thank you for the time.
Okay. With that, is there anything further from our planning department? Okay. With that, I'll declare the public hearing closed at 7:12.
I apologize for, I just wanted clarification on something. I just saw something that I'd never seen before in here.
Just
Is it closed? It's
closed
done?
it.
Okay, sorry.
Yep.
Thank you, David. Okay. Thanks.
All right, thanks very much. And I've lost my way. You know what? I would like to take just a few-minute break here. Can we come back at 7:20? Everybody okay with that?
Absolutely.
ready, Nikita?
Ready?
All right, with that, we'll go to item 8.3. I know this is moving, but since we have the developer in the, or the planner in the room here, we'll clean this one up. So this is the outline plan for Blue Ridge Country Estates on parcel northeast 23-59-10 west of the 5th Meridian. And Joan, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, council. So we've held the public hearing with respect to the outline plan that's before you, the Blue Ridge Country Estates. So pursuant to policy 6111, what we require is that council approve the plan through a resolution after the public hearing's been held. And I'm just recommending that council approve it. There was not much people that were not in favor of it. It seemed fairly positive, which is exciting, that we're gonna have some actual development, because in the last 10 years, it's been pretty quiet in the hamlet. There hasn't been a lot occurred, so this is good to see and kind of exciting, so.
Okay, Councillor Kush?
It's great having somebody who wants to try to do a little bit more development and try to get some growth in that community there. So want to make a motion the council approve the outline plan, Blue Ridge Country Estates on part northeast 235910 west of the 5th Meridian, 132.10 plus or minus acres.
Okay. Motion on the floor from Councillor Kush. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Okay, congratulations. Next step. Okay, item 8.2, that's the public engagement strategies.
Your worship, members of council, this item is before you, as requested by council, some information on engagement strategies and items that we can do. Open for discussion and direction on council, and if there's any other items that you would like to see in this.
Okay, any questions to admin on this? Go ahead, Councillor Dean.
So this is in part a process question coming from the process of direction that comes out of the GMP committee to council. So we had discussed this at length, and you were taking notes, and there was no motion made, and I asked whether we should make a motion to give you direction, and you had said, no, I think I have everything, so that was fine. If we made a motion in that committee, that would just be to recommend to council to accept whatever the motion was moving. It's not actually giving direction. Am I understanding that right?
Through the chair to all of council, that is as close to my understanding as I have. Right now, I do apologize. I was absent from the first GNP meeting, so if there are any terms of reference or any items of that nature discussed at that meeting, I haven't caught up with that yet.
Okay.
So it's my understanding that it goes to the GMP committee for discussion, and then your GMP committee is recommending that it goes to council. Council is the area in the arena where motions can be decided on and direction given.
Okay, so thank you for that clarity. What I remember from the discussion was that we were asking to take these numbers. So these numbers that are shown here are exactly the same as the data that was given to us at our council meeting, and then we deferred it to the GMP. So when you look at the 10-year set of data, $42.20 per year is the annual increase, and if you multiply $3.51 by 12, you're going to come up with $42.20. So, am I correct in that?
I'm sorry, I'm losing where you're.
So this was, we were presented with the meeting, and we pushed this over to the GNP. And on here, I don't know, do you have a copy of this?
I didn't bring
You
it
don't,
down with
okay.
me.
So in the 10-year, the bottom line was the cost to resident was gonna be $42.20. And if you divided $42.20 by 12, it came up with $351, which is what is shown in this bar graph.
Mhm.
And what I remember the discussion was that we were gonna add 20% to the capital cost, and we were going to double the operating deficit, and we wanted to wrap both of those costs into a number that we could show residents.
Through the chair to Councillor Dean, I absolutely do recall that, and in discussion with communications in preparing this, we didn't struggle, but we were working with different formats, and this to us came out as the cleanest, is to have what the 10-year loan would be, and then down on the next question below, if you see the, what would the increase be? Question 5 reads, if construction goes ahead, property taxes will go up for operating and loan. So we tried to reflect on these amounts that they could pick from and what they would find an acceptable amount to include these numbers in this graph. We did try to show it the other way, and to us the data began to look kind of messy and convoluted and hard to follow on the survey.
Okay.
So if we missed the intent because we were trying to clean it up, we certainly apologize, and we can go back and rework it.
Well, I mean, we had a really lengthy discussion there, right, you guys, and I don't know, am I off base? That's what I remember, was that we were gonna add 20% to capital, and we were gonna double the net deficit from 400 that the town was showing to 800, and try and capture that number. That's what I remember is.
Yeah, and I don't think that was, I don't think that's an unfair thing to do, given the economy and where we're at and some of the feedback we've had on the numbers.
Sure.
So, Councillor Williams.
I was just gonna agree with Councillor Dean. On here too, like this number seems so reasonable on this graph. It looks really low, but it does say does not include operations. I think it's given a really false sense of what this will actually cost.
Yeah, this kind of reminds me of the commercial, taxes and services, shipping extra.
Yeah, we kind of did the same. Like, and this is kind of did the same. I didn't. Yeah, that's not a shot.
Sometimes when you look at the information for too long, it.
Yeah.
I couldn't have built it, so.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, and, I appreciate the discussion and the levity. If I was looking at this as a county resident, I think the first question I would have is, well, how much is that operating going to be? And, it could move that number to $3.80 a month, or in their mind, they don't know what it is, and perhaps the perception is it's going to double or triple. But I think that question is going to come up, is what does that operating deficit mean? And to me, we need to be really clear with our information, and that's part of that clarity.
Councillor Prestidge.
Yes, through the chair. Question 3 and 4, to me, they do not need to be there because we're not discussing that. We need to know, do residents want their taxes to increase to pay for this? That is the number one question. And I think that's the only question we should be asking residents.
Basically, question 4.
No?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead, Councillor Dean.
Yeah, and I'd concur with Councillor Prestidge. Again, we had considerable discussion about this, and at the end of the day, it was just basically a yes or no question. Present the financial data. Based on the financial data, do you support it? Do you not support it? The rest of these questions, it's good information to have, but it's not as relevant to the question as and again, it was a long discussion point, But what I recall was that was captured in that discussion, and that's why I asked if we needed to make a motion to kind of capture everything.
Through the chair to all of council, the questions 1 and 2 are directly from the notes of that discussion when there was concern of persons outside of the community doing the survey numerous times and creating a false data set for us, if you will. So those questions were put in that manner simply to address some of the concerns we heard with those in that discussion.
Councillor Wilhelm?
Are we doing this survey as like a blind survey, so we're not collecting names or any information from the people doing the surveys?
Through the chair, we don't get the names. Through the chair to Councillor Wilhelm, that is correct. In this particular format, we are unable to collect the names.
Do you mind if I ask why that decision was made? Like why that's the best course of action, or why you guys think that's the best course of action?
So, how do I say this? When you are asking someone to fill out a survey and includes some contact information or information revealing some of their identity, the chance that they will complete that survey will drastically go down. According to the Survey Monkey for this thing, they estimate that it's a 2-minute survey, but will have a 65 completion rate.
Okay.
And the more you add questions or identifying information, that will go down.
I just have a quick follow-up, sorry.
Okay, and then Councillor Kulkin, sorry.
I see the word division is hyperlinked. Is that so it's hyperlinked to a map so they can find out what division there? Okay, thank you.
Councillor Kulkin.
Yeah, I think question 1 and 2 are relevant, and they give us some information as to who is responding, so I think those 2 questions are good. I don't necessarily think we need to know whether or not they're going to use it or not. I think it's more going to be the question of, given the financial situation that we're presenting to you, would you support it? I think that would be the question after that. And I think that would be it for me.
I'm gonna recognize myself for 1 second here too, and on the question 3. I guess I'd still like to see this included because Canadians sometimes tend to be an overly generous group, thinking, well, we'll build it for somebody, and if absolutely nobody in the entire municipality says they're gonna use it, why would you build it? I think that's a relevant question. You have to determine whether or not, I mean, if they do actually build it and nobody's gonna use it, well, then why'd we build it? And the number survey for operations and everything is gonna be way off. And this may be an opportunity to say whether it's sized properly or whatever. I still think those are relevant questions. So with that, I'll recognize Councillor Dean and then Councillor Cush.
And so again, coming back to the discussion at the GMP committee, we were tasked with that agenda item at the GMP with just giving some direction to administration to come back with a survey tool. Some of the questions that were being directed to you related to survey formats, security, etc. And what I recalled, the answer was that you were consulting with communications, you were consulting with your IT, and you were going to come back with a plan that would address those questions. The one concern I have is that there's no way to know that people that are answering this survey reside in the county. And knowing whether they do or not, or where they live, is only important if we have a whole bunch of people from outside the county that are staging themselves as county residents. And I'm assuming this is going to go on our website, our Facebook page. There's just going to be a link, and we could have people from all over the world answering this survey, theoretically.
Okay, Okay, Counselor Cush, then Counselor Wilhelm, then Counselor Preston.
I was just wanted to make a quick suggestion as far as the questions. I do like question 3, but question 4, if we could possibly have it in order to be, do you support a tax increase for the construction and operation?
Good idea.
Can I just
Counselor Wilhelm.
friendly amend that and say, do you support a tax increase for the construction operation as presented, or as currently presented? Like, because we're asking them for information directly on what they presented so far, right? That does provide more information and I think it clears it up for the residents, or maybe I'm being too clear, or I'm overthinking it, but anyways.
Counselor, just hang on a minute. Counselor Wilhelm, then Counselor Prestige, then Counselor Dean.
Through the chair, I would sooner see a survey with less numbers on it, knowing that these are county residents, than a survey with high numbers not knowing if they are county residents.
Counselor Williams.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I agree. I'd rather see 100 people fill it out and put their names to it, because most people I talk to will put their name to it. They are willing to do that. I support that. I'd rather 100 accurate ones than 1,000 that are. These are just hypothetical numbers, but 1,000 that are.
Okay, Counselor Dean.
So is there, did you guys look at that, finding a way, like whether you could put in a land location or a tax roll number or something as a key to be able to answer it?
To the chair, to council, yes, we discussed it. I'll ask communications to respond to that.
There was no kind of foolproof way to actually confirm any of this information. They could send us a blue sign number, but there are some properties with similar blue sign numbers, or if they gave us a portion of that, there are multiple locations with that sign, with that number. Like the first 5 digits of your sign number, we wouldn't be able to accurately confirm those addresses or anything like that. As well, people in the hamlets don't have the blue sign numbers, they would have to use a street address and things like that.
Counselor Wilhelm.
I know that we're not gonna be able to find a way to like basically authenticate that. But if you ask for their name and potentially an email, that it is almost a verification process as it is. I do believe that if we put this out there as an anonymous survey, it will be abused.
Oh yeah.
Without a doubt, it's going to be abused. And we want data that we can use and make us formulate a good discussion and formulate a good decision based off of. And if we're not careful, we're going to get data that's going to skew us in an incorrect way, whichever way it goes. If we don't make it difficult for people to abuse, is all I'm saying. So I mean, I don't know if we got name and email on it to make it just a little bit more difficult, because if somebody's gonna spam it, it's a lot harder to spam it making up random names than we're gonna know. Somebody named Mickey Mouse obviously isn't somebody living in Woodlands County.
And if they put one of those verifications in there that says which one of these pictures has a traffic light, I am definitely not gonna fill it out.
Well,
It was right.
I don't mean that complicated, but I do think as much as it could affect responding like we're talking about, it's gonna also eliminate spamming. Because it would be very easy to spam this the way that it is right now.
Yeah, so as a hypothetical then, administration, how hard would this be to set up a couple of days where we're at the Westward Center, at the office, you can fill it out at the office, a physical copy. You could fill it out at the Anselmo office, you can fill it out we could work a few physical areas to have this filled out, along with an email and like some contact information.
Through the chair and all of council, yes, and we did that when the last survey ran. We made physical copies available for those individuals who preferred not to use electronic means to answer it. And we did have a few, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but we did have a few. And my apologies to council that we did not bring this back to you with what you were expecting. In giving thought further to your financial piece, looking at it now, we could do a tiered bar graph that would show the loan amount and then the operating costs on top. It would still give, that was an option that I didn't think about when I was working with communications on this, and we were simply trying to keep it clean. So can I just clarify from council, so I have the notes, what the increases for operating costs you expected to have into this?
Sure, I'd like to do it in the form of a motion. So I'd move that we direct administration to come back with a survey information that includes a 20% increase to the proposed $59.1 million construction cost, and a doubling of the $400,000 net deficit for operating, so a doubling to $800,000.
To the chair to confirm you would find a tiered bar graph that would show both parts separately to be acceptable?
Sure, as long as at the end of the day, a resident can look and say, if there's two numbers that they add up, then.
Okay. Any comments on that motion?
So I guess the only comment I have for you guys is, we're looking at a 10-year. And we've got three different options here that administration had presented us at the council meeting. And I brought this with me, I don't know if you guys have it with you, but there's a 10-year, a 20-year, and a 25. And if everybody's comfortable with 10, we can leave it at 10. But
Yeah, I think 10 is,
okay,
okay.
good. I just wanted that out there so that we could discuss that.
And do we want it per month, or do you want it per year? Per month? I'm just not sure how most people pay their taxes, because honestly, if you're to ask me on a mortgage, when the bank collects the taxes, how much my taxes are, I probably wouldn't have been able to tell you for 7 years. I really didn't know. So.
You didn't get a tax notice?
What's that?
You didn't get a tax notice?
Who cares? The bank pays it.
Yeah. When it's paid month to month, I never paid attention.
Right?
Yeah.
So, go ahead, Councilor Bush.
Two things. First thing, I would also like to see, aside from just a survey, if administration would be able to reach out and ask for a letter either of in support or in non-support from our two largest industrial players that we have, given they will be impacted the most. And this county is, 70% of our tax base comes from industrial and 30% is residential. So I want at least the voice from, a couple of our largest players in the industrial to see, because it will hit them the hardest.
Okay. We still have a motion on the floor on this other component, so I'll accept that as a motion later. We'll get this other one dealt with first. So, Councilor Dean, do you want to just restate your motion? So it was to go.
Yeah, and I'll include the 10-year, if you don't mind, a friendly amendment by myself. So we'll use the data based on a 10-year a debenture showing the construction cost, the proposed construction cost of $59.1 million multiplied by a factor of 1.2, so showing a 20% increase to capital cost, as well as a doubling of the proposed $400,000 net operating deficit to $800,000.
Okay, hang on one second here. So I'm going to accept that motion as a friendly amendment to your one. Councilor Prestige.
Just a friendly amendment, we should put a time frame on this survey so it doesn't go out for months. It's whether it's 2 weeks or 1 month or whatever.
Yeah, I think that would be treated in a separate motion. We're just looking for the financial data.
Speaking to the motion, Councillor
To the
Cush.
motion, just to administration, how long will it take you to have this in a format to present so we'll be able to look at it?
Through the chair to all of council, I'm quite certain we would have this ready for preview by end of day Monday.
Okay. Anything further? Okay, Councillor Dean's motion is on the floor, friendly amended to himself, so, all in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Councillor Cush.
I'd like to make a motion that administration reaches out to our larger industrial players and with the information presented, ask for either a letter in support or a non-support.
And, yeah, and to not put them on the spot with it, it's not required or anything. We're
Yeah,
just
not
asking for
required,
some-
but-
We're seeking their input, right?
Their
So,
input, like I
yeah.
say, it's, they are 70% of our tax base.
Councillor Williams and then Councillor Dean.
I was just gonna say, should we put a number on how many? Like say the top 5 or top 3 or whatever, just a suggestion to your motion.
I saw, she was accessing the hard drive.
She's like, stop.
Top 10.
Top 10?
Top 10.
Top 10.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good number because then you're gonna see what the consensus is. Some big players.
Okay, would you accept that as a friendly
I
amendment?
accept that as a friendly amendment.
Okay, Councillor Dean.
And I'm going to suggest another friendly amendment, and that is, we're providing financial data to all the residents. I'm thinking that financial data in this request to the top 10 would be, they'd want to know as well.
I thought I kind of captured that in mind, but yes.
Yeah, I didn't hear it, sorry.
All right. Who's doing the motion recording? You want to read it back?
That council requests that administration reaches out to the.
Sorry,
top 10 industrial-
I'm deaf in one ear and can't hear out of the other, just a little bit louder.
That council requests that administration reaches out to the top 10 industrial players for a letter of support.
And
Okay.
provide.
And, yeah, but we have to include the financial data as well.
And provide the financial data.
So in that motion, we'll need to include, so reach out to the top 10 and provide information on the financial data around this build, or around this ask.
Okay.
Is that acceptable, Councillor Cush?
Yep.
Yes.
I accept that.
Okay. All right, any discussion on the motion?
Perhaps a letter of opinion is what we're looking for, rather than a letter of support, because
Volunteer.
we're giving
Yes,
them the
that,
opportunity.
thank you.
Yeah, volunteer.
Yep. Or requesting input or something along those lines, right? So, okay, letter of opinion, that sounds good.
Accept that amendment also.
All right, boy, we're a friendly group.
We got this thing all amended
Okay,
here.
we've got that crafted. Anyone wish to speak on the motion? Now that it's all
No.
friendly up. All right, all in favor? Any opposed?
We don't have to vote on the amendment, right?
You don't have to vote on the amendment if it's friendly. If it's not friendly, then you gotta vote on the amendment.
It was getting not friendly.
You guys are keeping me on my toes here, but I'm ready. So, okay, just 1 second. Alicia.
Excuse me, Reeve, but we have all the amendments and the motions captured, but probably should close off the RFD, so you're accepting it for information or as
No.
motions adjusted to.
Councillor Preston.
I would like to make a motion to put a deadline on the survey results, so it doesn't stretch out too long. I would say 2 weeks from when we approve it,
When it goes out.
from when it goes out, yes.
Okay, deadline on it. Any questions on that motion? All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. All right, now we have to deal with the original, and I'm so far past the original here. Recommendation. Okay, Counselor Kush.
Through to Alicia, would it be, I guess, wise at this point to accept this for, this part for information until we get the amended survey back to have a look at?
To accept the report for information and for administration to bring back details on the other motions that were made.
My next question is, when are we gonna be able to meet again to be able to get a look at this? Because I also don't wanna have this drug out too long into this process.
Yeah, that's right, because we canceled the meeting here, right?
Yeah.
We might have to do a special meeting. So, sorry, Counselor Williams, you had your hand
I
up.
was just gonna say, could we do like an electronic meeting and put this on the agenda? Like a special meeting electronically, then it would be probably a short meeting.
We could do a hybrid, probably. Let's see how admin does putting it together. We'll fan it out by email and we'll see if we need to, I can, as the chair, I can call a special meeting with proper notice, as long as everybody's okay with that. And if we need it, because I think we're gonna need it, I think we're running up against the clock here, so. Counselor Dean.
And before we accept this as information, I know there were some questions about these 4 questions, which ones we wanted to include, which ones we wanted to exclude. And I think we should give direction to administration as to exactly which questions we want. I know what, somebody had amended, I think it was Councillor Kush had amended question 4, do you support, so the language then would be, do you support a tax increase based on the financial data given to support that? And what about the other questions, you guys, 1, 2, and 3? Are we good with that?
That was good.
Counselor Kush.
Yeah, so, good with the other questions. I mean, we were gonna obviously edit the costs based off of the different numbers we wanted on that. And if we could, I do like the idea of trying to find a way to, you know, showcase the individual, you know, a name or an email or something, just so we can highlight the people that these are actually from our residents, you know, their concerns, their voice.
Okay, so we're good with the questions and that one amended. Counselor Lincoln.
Yeah, just a question through to Alicia. Is it possible that you could have a piece in there that's, they volunteer their name? Because if they volunteer, like I have no problem putting my name on a survey like this. And how does that work within administration?
Through the chair to Councillor Copeland, I'm quite certain that we can ask for a name and make it an optional field. And we did discuss that when we were preparing this, and we were uncertain if that was going to achieve the results of preventing any spammers, or if it's still optional, then we're not really ensuring that any of the responses are coming from Woodlands County.
Counselor Williams.
I don't feel comfortable with it being, well, not that I don't feel comfortable, I don't agree with it being optional. I think that it should be mandatory, so we know that this is coming from our residents, and I think our residents will respect that. Just my opinion.
Counselor Dean.
With all due respect to that, it still doesn't guarantee anything. So somebody could be in Edmonton and, you know, find out a name in Fort Assiniboine and just write down a name. My concern is the security around here, the validity that we're actually getting our residents, and that we're not getting a special interest group, if you will, that wants to hijack the results. And I would really like to see those options brought back to us. I know you said that you kind of looked at this and that, and nothing seemed foolproof, but right now, the way it is, to me, it's wide open. And I just think it's ripe for abuse.
Counselor Kush.
I say further down the package, there are other options that were, I guess, presented from administration. I think if you want to ensure that they are residents, the most costly one we have here, unfortunately, would be direct mail to the residents off the, instead of going with their tax roll or stuff, because that's further down the road. The quickest and, most efficient way to make sure that we have the people's, who are getting this, who should be, would be directly to mail them out. But as they have shown, it's also the most expensive at about $2,000.
Councilor Dean?
What does council feel about spending $2,000 when we're contemplating borrowing 7.1 or 8.4?
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah. Councilor Prestige?
Through the chair, I totally agree with the mail out. Then we know it's our residents that get it. And if it costs $2,000, it's well spent.
Didn't work for mail-in ballots.
They get lost.
It'll be slower though.
I agree.
That's the problem.
This will be much
That-
slower.
The timing of this is a real problem.
I think,
I honestly think having the physical copies at the offices available and having people have to walk in the door for it, I really don't think you're gonna get much in the way of disingenuous people that way. Councilor Dean and then Councilor Williams.
So is there a way to mail out and say, here's a link, and please, so you don't make the link public, but it's on the mail out? So you give somebody a letter and you say you have a 2-week deadline and go to this link, would that work?
if somebody wants to find it, they'll find that pretty quick, like if they wanna get that out.
Okay,
One wrong person sends it home.
okay.
What about this option, if you don't mind?
Go ahead.
We're worried about distribution, right? Or people being able to get access to do the survey properly. And we're looking, I think physical copy does kind of make sense in some ways. We can provide at the office. What if we also provide us as counselors copies of the surveys? And that's an option. They can contact us and we can deliver those surveys to them as well, or give them a place they can come pick the surveys up from us. Gives us a little bit more accessibility to them, and we know that who we're handing it to as well. It gives multiple options for giving this survey out and distributing it as fast as possible.
Could also give the appearance that we have our thumb on the scale, so. Councilor Cush.
I was gonna say, even one step off that, we have a number of community halls within our county from different representations. I mean, if we have the, I guess we have, once we have the survey completed in a format that works for all of council, I don't think it'd be anything to make an arrangement with one of our community halls and even just sit there for a few hours in the afternoon and let the residents know you're there.
Yeah.
People, if they know you're there, like advertise it in one of, some of our free papers or on the radio or something like that, or Facebook pages for the community groups. If they wanna fill them out, they'll come. You can at least, you're in the area, people will be there, most of them are gonna be your neighbors and stuff, you're gonna know most.
Councilor Kuchen.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea because what it shows as well is that we're putting our effort in to get that out there. We're sitting there waiting for them to come to us. We've given them the information, and I think that makes sense. And it's probably the quickest way.
Councilor Cush.
For now, I wanna make a motion to direct administration to come back with a revised survey, which will communicate via email to set up a special meeting to maybe figure out the distribution of the survey.
Okay. Any discussion on that motion? All in favor? Any opposed? Wow, okay.
And I know we voted on that motion, but the special meeting, a council member would be able to patch in through Teams?
Well, the mechanism for the meeting, my intention is to make it a hybrid, so it's as accessible as possible. If you have to dial into it by phone, I don't think there's gonna be a lot of detail on it specifically. not something you have to physically attend necessarily. We have the option within our procedural bylaw to make it a hybrid
I'm
meeting.
just away next week, so.
No, I understand, and that's why I say if I can call the meeting as the chair as long as we have proper notice, and it's what, 48 hours?
24 hours.
It's 24 hours.
Oh, that's good.
So yeah, we can be flexible on it. That's
Great.
just this one item.
Okay.
Because, you know, we went through it really quickly. And Counselor Wilhelm, I didn't mean to jump ahead when I commented on your, about getting the counselors to do it. I kind of didn't recognize myself there, so I apologize.
Oh, no problem.
I'm trying to keep this at the administrative level though, because I don't, that's all, I just don't want to, I don't want it to get political, I don't want it to be perceived as political. How about that? Okay,
Excuse me, Your Worship.
yes.
Could administration please have clarification on question 5? Is it in, out? It's one that we added in hopes of capturing all of that on the financial piece.
Is that the one where it says, do you want it painted hot pink? Counselor Williams.
If I can comment on that, I like the information. I don't agree with the how much would you support. I think the questions will answer that above and give it as information personally, but.
Yeah, and it kind of goes to another, and this is the frustrating part about this particular thing, is that had we been involved in this a little bit earlier, there could have been different scopes considered, and we could have found ranges and things like this. Now we have this, and this is the only option. So,
Yeah.
I think we're at it now. All right, my agenda is a complete mess. Did I miss anything?
Sorry.
I don't think she got clarification there.
No,
Oh,
I'm
you
still
still don't have
wondering if it's in or out.
I think, I'll make a motion to remove question 5.
5. Okay,
Thank you.
any discussion on that? Counselor Dean?
Yeah, I just want to speak in opposition to the motion. I've had a few residents ask me, you know, whether there would be levels. And, you know, without getting into detail, there's still questions being answered with respect to the arbiter's ruling. And, you know, to get some feedback from residents as to what they would consider acceptable, in my opinion, is good information to have. I think these numbers are, and when you look above, on this, you know, right above question 5, we've got an average home at 326.4 of 351 per month, and everybody's going to have to do the math based on their assessment to figure out where they sit. And that question below relates to, you know, the math that they're doing.
It does, but then we have to know what bracket they're in to make sense of that number, because we don't have it as a percentage.
No, but we're just asking them, would you support this, and this?
I know, but we don't know what that, so if somebody says I'd support $7 a month, but they're in a $500,000 or $750,000 home, that's a very small percentage tax increase. Right?
Right.
So if you don't associate that specific number with a specific assessment, you don't have a lock to how much do I want my taxes to go up. I understand what you're going for, and like I said, this type of a question is a good one for when you're originally planning one of these types of things. You know, what
Yep.
level of service do you want to see out of this? I think at this point it's just too late, because it is what it is at this
Yeah,
point. So,
I just wanted to bring that out for discussion.
Councillor Cook.
Well, I think they're gonna do the math, and if they do the math and they accept that, they'll already know what they're paying a month. So I think they're gonna accept that number if they say yes, right? So I think that we're putting that question in, and that question would be very specific to the resident holders and would have really no meaning to the industrial sector. So I would like to see that motion stand.
Okay. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion to remove question 5? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, that passes. So question 5 is removed. And everything else stands for questions. Right? Okay, so then we're specific. You have all your marching orders, we're clear as mud? Okay.
My apologies again.
Please do not apologize. We want to make sure that you understand everything we're talking about here, so.
We also have changed our minds multiple times.
We have.
It hasn't really been very clear.
I was gonna. All right. Did I catch everything in the agenda? Because I'm scribbled all over everything here.
Yep.
I think we're
so.
good.
Yeah.
Yes, we did. All right, so we're getting to council reports. Where did I start last time?
You always start with me.
Okay, I'll start with Councillor Williams then.
It's been pretty busy the last little bit with everyone's been busy, but the RMA, I think that was great. There was lots of interaction with ministers and the RCMP and everyone else that we met with. I thought that was very good. Wanted to comment on the keynote speaker on the first day, Monday, when we were there, that Chris Kosh, I don't remember how to say his last name, but I'd love to see him go into like the Fort School or something. I don't know I think that'd be great. That he was such a good speaker, and I thought he did a really good job. Just kind of a side note, but I think more people should see him and listen to what he's all about, because that was very good. RMA probably could go on all night about it. It was good. I really enjoyed it. At a Ag Service Board meeting, that Ag Profile project, we talked lots there with the contractor that's setting that all up. So that's on track. We talked about some elk causing issues in neighboring municipalities and the issues they're having there. So we talked about that within ours, because the population is definitely rising as well. Grizzly bear impacts, we talked about that at the Ag Service Board meeting, and that's definitely something that's real in our communities now as well, so I thought that was really good. And then the Ag Service Board supper, that went really good as well. Wanted to say good job to Peter. He was the MC for that, and everyone that worked on that did a very good job, so a lot of work goes into that. And I finished handing out the awards for the people that weren't at the Ag Service Board supper today, and everyone was really happy with everything. There was one spelling error on a name, so we gotta get that fixed, but yeah, it was good. That's some really good conversations today with them as well, so it was a busy couple weeks, but it was good.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Councillor Williams? Okay, Councillor Prestige.
I too went to the Ag Services supper. It was very well attended, and my hat's off to Peter for emceeing that. It's not an easy job, and really liked the video of your family. That was really good. And we had our West End bus meeting last Friday, and through much discussion, we decided to resume operation. It'll take about a month or so to get everything organized and back on the road, which is a lot of residents have been waiting for this. And with the RMA, I took in the strategic planning course, which was very good. It'll really help us with the one we have coming up. And lots of good information, especially talking with ministers. And good session with the RCMP also, so it was a good conference.
Any questions to Councilor Prestige? Councilor Kush?
Mostly gonna sound like a broken record at this point. Went to the ASB dinner, and hats off to Peter, and it was nice to see the volume of people that actually showed up for that there. It was great time. Hopefully next year we can get more people from the community out. It's good food, good entertainment, and great to have the community kind of come together for. ASB board meeting after that. One other thing kind of to mention there about the grizzly bear portion is that we are looking at doing another bear awareness campaign. We're finding there's lots of people from more urban centers and stuff that are kind of starting to move into the rural areas, and through some of the discussions and stuff we had, a lot of them aren't as aware as to how to properly, I guess, take care of your property, your store, keep stuff put away to not attract some of the animals that are definitely around our area here. Had a quick board meeting with the YRL, again, more on policies and budgets and anything else coming to the start of the year here. RMA, again, highlight of last couple of weeks here. The conversations with the RCMP were actually really good, just kind of information-wise as far as some of the things that kind of point the RCMP into directions for where to kind of focus their look. For anybody listening to this or watching anyways, there are a lot of people I know in rural Alberta who decide that it's better just to let things kind of happen or deal with it on your own instead of phoning the RCMP. They did mention that their tracking system is based off, obviously, with the calls and call volumes, and that's where they pin the areas, and the more areas, the more phone calls and kind of issues in certain areas is where they start focusing more of their officers at. So, one of those things, I know a lot of people like to be quiet and kind of leave things alone, but sometimes it's better if you don't know what's going on or something seems off, just to make a phone call, let the RCMP know, let them kind of get that area in the in their I guess sights a little bit. The other thing I really enjoyed was the administrators forum, having a bunch of different ministers on the panel and the questions and the responses coming out as far as they're kind of, I guess, the way that the ministers and the government kind of seem to be, the way things are going versus how some of the municipalities are seeing and things that are waiting and trying to work together in, I guess, a large open kind of space to, I guess, try to resolve some of the things or at least get action going and or moved around it. There are a lot of good points there, and that's what I got for right now. Thank you.
Okay, any questions to Councilor Kush? No? Okay. Councilor Dean?
So in the 14-day period since our last council meeting, it was one of those weeks, one of those busy times. I count up 9 different meetings in 10 business days. So it was a busy time for me, but productive. I did not attend the Ag Service Board supper, and I wish I would have, but I did attend the Whitecourt Community Service Board meeting, a chamber meeting, the Woodlands Community Services Board meeting. Like Devin, I did some deliveries to some folks that didn't make the supper. And then I was in the service delivery course at the RMA convention, and then of course attended convention with everybody. And I'd really like to reiterate how beneficial I found, not just the content in the RMA convention, but the time spent with council, not in these chambers, being able to just develop some common camaraderie. It was great to spend that time with council.
Thanks, Councilor Dean. Any questions to Councilor Dean? Councilor Wilhelm?
Yeah, Councilor Kush said I'm gonna sound like a broken record, so I'll keep it to the highlights as much as I can. Yes, this was a very busy couple weeks. Probably the busiest for me so far as a councilor, but I attended the ASB dinner. And again, I want to say thank you to Peter's daughter, who had an awesome video there, really awesome video highlighting rural Alberta and what's it like to be in rural Alberta. We had a community services meeting, government priorities, which we had some RFDs come out of that. So I thought that meeting was really good to attend, and I liked how that one went. RMA was awesome, strat planning. course, I walked away with 8 pages of notes from that, and I'm really excited for our strat planning sessions coming up soon. And as well as the team building that our group was able to do there. Like, I got to know you guys all a lot better, and I think that's only gonna make us stronger as a council. And parts of the RMA that I really appreciated being part of, meeting with the ministers, meeting with the RCMP, the MLAs taking time out of their days to come talk to us, come talk to the new councilors, and make themselves familiar with us. And then meeting the other county councilors in the area, like Brazeau County, Lac St. Anne, Clearwater, Greenview, Yellowhead. All those counties came up and talked to us, or had discussions about ideas about what their communities are doing, potentially what our communities are doing. So I found those conversations really enlightening, and they really helped me grow as a counselor. As many of you know, I'm not a big Jason Kenney fan, but I thought that his speech at the RMA was very strong, and I'm hoping that words lead to actions from him, because if the words do lead to actions, it's very positive for Alberta. So I really enjoyed his I don't know, you call it stump speech or whatever, but I hope that everything that he's trying to promise to us does come to rural Alberta. And that's mostly it for my update. I did want to ask Reeve Burrows, some in conversations with Lac St. Anne County, the Reeve there had asked us about some mental health initiatives that he was looking into and wanted to potentially partner with us. And I'm wondering if there's a venue where we could get together with their county and have a discussion about that, and see if there is some synergy there between our counties to do that. I'm sure he brought it up with you, but I just
Yeah, we've been looking for how to facilitate that kind of a get together at some point as well. So we're not sure exactly how that's going to take place, but and this is one of the challenges, is trying to arrange everything through COVID. But hopefully we're open for good now, so we can actually have conversations face to face. So that's but it will be coming back to us, absolutely.
And my last thing, I'll be quick. I know we're meetings going on, but this is just through the chair to Joan. Joan, just a quick question on development, and as developments and developers work their way through our system with the county. Post-development, once it's completed, has there been any feedback or survey done with them on the process as they've gone through it with the county? Do we grab any of that information after the fact with the developers once they've gone through our process?
We haven't in the past.
Oh, okay. I was wondering if we had done anything like that before.
We were sorry if I may, we were kind of in the stages of doing that when we had 2 development officers, where we could do some follow-up. But now that we're cut back on staff, it's difficult to try and move forward with just getting the permits completed and all that, and then that follow-up, just there isn't time permitted to do it.
I understand. Thank you. That's all I had.
Okay. Any questions to Jeremy? All right. Councilor Coolton.
All right. Yep, March 3rd, I guess, was the start of a busy month, the governance priorities meeting, and then on the 4th, in the morning, we had the Growth RETA meeting at Fort Des Moines at the council chambers there. We had our AGM and had a presentation from Wild Alberta Committee, which was very well received, and it looks like we'll be moving forward on that front. We had a very in-depth discussion on revitalization of the growth in the next step forward. It seems that the setting up Wild as a DMO will give us a bit of flexibility to massage growth and keep the RETA alive, as this is the way we get our grant funding. I anticipate more discussions on this front, as I heard Minister Nate Horner at the RMA suggesting that they see value in further funding economic growth initiatives, especially on the tourism side in the North Central region. It seems the feds are also of that mindset. All in all, lots of positive things happening because of the tireless work of Bert, our EDO, and in helping our chair and treasurer, Janet and Walter, as they wade through the difficult task of correcting some of the things that have been neglected for the last couple of years. The evening, March 4th, we had our annual Ag Service Board supper. It was very well attended, and I had a lot of positive feedback. Folks were glad to be able to go out and socialize with their friends and neighbors, and one of the comments I heard after the enjoyable time that some of the younger members were having was that they need more young people at these functions to spice them up a little bit. I'd really like to give Dawn Fortin, our field lady, and Jennifer Christensen and James Aiken a big shout out for the incredible job they did organizing the event, because they always do the heavy lifting. March 7th, we had our Barhead District Social Housing meeting. We're finishing contract agreement with the new CAO and deputy CAO, and are very pleased that we have two good people in those positions. We're going to look at our requisition and possibly develop a policy as to best go through that process to make it more transparent and understandable for those who fund us. I guess right now, the process was just, what did we do? Historically, what was the requisition? There was really no formula. And so this year it was a lot higher because of a bunch of things that happened, what we would be asking for, but we're trying to set a policy as to how we do that, so it's something that we can actually justify. So that'll be an interesting exercise. March 8th, we had our Ag Service Board meeting in Whitecourt. And we're, like Devin said, we're currently finalizing the Ag Profile Initiative, and it's really looking good. The Profile Committee has done a really good job, and once again, thanks to Bert for his guidance. It's invaluable. And one of the things we did do is we're going to be setting up a meeting with Fish and Wildlife to get updates on possible issues that may start to merge with the grizzly and elk in our region. March 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th was RMA. Once again, not disappointed in the networking I was able to do with numerous municipalities. And I've been beginning to connect with other councillors and reeves of different municipalities, even some of the AMs that were there. And that was I had some really good conversations about some of the things that we're going to be looking forward to. Our reeve invited both MLAs to dinner one evening, and we had some really good discussion on emerging issues and got to know them on a personal level. And building these relationships in a positive way is always good for our municipality, as these gentlemen are going to keep us informed as things emerge in government. I managed to take a course that was offered in strategic planning, and I was happy that I was able to take it, as our strategic planning sessions will start at the end of the month, and it'll definitely make my contribution to these sessions a little better. The highlight for me, though, was the meeting with the Minister of Municipal Affairs. We discussed current issues that we're having with our arbitration decision and its implications to the municipality. I was incredibly proud of the degree of professionalism and integrity that Reeve Burrows presented our concerns, and what a lot of people don't understand is that we have debated this thing and tried to figure our best way through this as a group, and that really culminated in that meeting. And I was really proud to be part of that team, and we've had some interesting discussions, and a lot of the people in the community don't understand these intermunicipal frameworks are important, but they have to be fair. And I think that the way that we presented it and the way that we've behaved in this whole discussion phase in the appeal is just shows how respectful and how much integrity this group has. And I'd like to say thanks to John and all my council colleagues for the guidance of our administration team, because we've gotten to a place where, though we may approach things differently, through mutual respect and very frank conversation, we'll overcome the challenges that are out in front of us. Thanks a lot. I'd also like to, on a sad note, send our deepest condolences out to Mary Hassett. Used to be Mary Cartwright, was a former councillor. Her husband passed away on Monday the 14th, and just condolences to her family, because they're both good friends and they were really valued community builders. Glenn will be missed.
Okay.
That's it.
Thanks very much, Councillor Postman. And thank you for the kind comments, I appreciate it. Any questions to Councillor Cook? No? Okay. If I can follow that one up, that's pretty good. So first I have to start off with apologies for not making the ASB supper. But I did get fantastic feedback that we were so well represented there by our council, and it turned out to be a fantastic event. And if you need more young people, I'll make sure I get there next time. We had, as you know, I'm involved at the RMA level. We have been going great guns on this unpaid tax, and I'm very happy to say that the original path forward for the mechanism to collect unpaid taxes, which Woodlands put forward, I think it was a year and a half ago, in a resolution, was to get after the AER directly, the Alberta Energy Regulator, on license transfers. So if you don't pay your taxes, basically it's just like registries. If you haven't got everything paid up and all your ducks in a row, you don't operate. You don't get your operators. So we're hoping that that is going to continue, but there was an urgent resolution at RMA that confirmed all that, and it seemed that the minister was listening, because he indicated that he had heard loud and clear about that. So that was fantastic. I got to give an update at the Chamber of Commerce meeting, which was good. We had some good positive development things to come on, and certainly I'll mention the future growth that we're looking at here that we saw even during this meeting. We had a community services meeting, and I'll echo Jeremy's comments as well, that I think we had some really good discussion coming out of that, and I'm looking forward to seeing that hit the governance and priorities meeting and see what comes out of it. So, and again, those meetings are online, so you can, if you're interested in them, you can watch them. I also want to echo Jeremy's comments around RMA. So I attended RMA with council and the strategic planning courses and a lot of all of these other things as well. So the feeling that I got as I stood there and I watched the cabinet talk, because I've been an elected official for just a little over 4 years, and in that 4 years I've had to deal with 2 different governments and 4 different ministers of municipal affairs, and I just nicely get a relationship where I can know who to talk to in the administration, who I can communicate with, and it changes. And it is so frustrating to make a little bit of progress and then be set back to square one. So I understand the optimism that we see. So I'm hoping, I don't want to get on a stump or anything. So it's just the nature of the business. So, and I want to put out a special thanks to Alicia, because our CAO has been on holidays, must be nice. So, and she has done a fantastic job holding this organization together, and all of our executive directors and directors that have helped her through the hard times. I understand that our CAO will be back on Friday, and well, no, sorry, Monday. And maybe I shouldn't put that out there, but no, wait, maybe I should. So he'll be back on Monday, and Alicia will be returning to normal. So but I just wanted to say thank you very much for all that you've done. And next time, hopefully you can get away to RMA where you can have some decent conversations with other administrators, because at the administrative level, there's lots of CAOs there, and there is a lot to learn. So some good networking opportunities for sure. That's it for me. Anyone have any questions for me? Councillor Williams.
Not so much a question, but I was just going to comment that I thought you did very good at the RMA. I meant to add this in, and all the stuff you had to do, the meetings, the introductions, all that. You did very good. Our county was definitely well represented in Division 3. I thought you did a good job. So just wanted to add that.
Well, thank you. Okay, with that, where are we now? Did such a good job. Go ahead, Councillor Cush.
Make a motion to accept council reports for information.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. Financial report, it's not quarterly yet. CAO report. Last one, Alicia.
Good worship, Mr. Council. Working on the legal piece of the ICF and our recent submission for the judicial review. Have been in contact with another municipality that's going through an appeal process, and we've exchanged documents, and we're working together to kind of bounce ideas off one another, I guess. We're staggered entry of staff all returning to the office by the first week of April. I think all of the staff will be back in the office, which will be the first time in a couple of years, so we're really looking forward to that. Operations have been running smoothly. Thank you to all of you for your support while we've been on this journey of my acting CAO. Big shout out to Andre, co-SMT or senior management team member, and Joan is always a pillar of support with both her knowledge and just her overall demeanor in the office. It's wonderful. Finalized today that the audit presentation from the external auditors will be on the 13th of April, so that signals that audit is almost finished. And that's about it.
Okay, any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Blow.
Motion that council accepts the acting CA report as information.
Any discussion on the motion? All in favor? Any opposed? It's carried. All right, that brings us to an area. CAO report, council accepts. Yep, that brings us to the committee of the whole. And the first item on the list, 11.1, is under an airport matters. So I'm going to declare pecuniary interest on that one before you guys go into closed session. Councillor?
Do you want to flip those two?
No, I could use a quick break.
Okay.
And then we can finish off, so I'm gonna declare a pecuniary interest, and because I think this is about a legal issue at the airport that I'm involved in a little bit. I have a business arrangement, so I will excuse myself on that basis, and when you guys are done, you can come out of closed session and then come and get me.
Can we have like a 5-minute break?
Say again?
Can we have a 5-minute break?
Yes, sure.
We want to go in closed session first.
Sure. Let me get out of here.
Now let's go take over.
Thank you.
So we need a motion to go into committee of the whole.
Make a motion that council goes into committee of the whole, referencing FOIP section 24 and 27.
Thanks, Councillor Wilhelm. Anybody have any, want to speak to the motion? Call the question. All in favor?